Hi everyone, this is Amy with Pretty Presets, and I am putting together this first webcam video for you. I am going to answer these questions that everybody has posted today for the Manic Monday post. I did notice that there were some questions in the post about the Luminous collection, and I chose not to answer those just because I saw that Laura posted a video earlier today and I haven't had a chance to watch that, so I'm thinking that some of the questions may be answered in that, and if not, then we'll find a way to get you some of the information that was asked earlier. I have about 10 questions here that I am going to answer, and they're not in any order. I just wrote everything down on Post-it notes, and they're just on my desk, and I am just going to grab these as we go along and answer them. I believe I wrote down all of them, but those that involve the Luminous collection. So we're going to go ahead and get started and hopefully give you the information that you need. There are a couple other places that you can go to when you are in need of information and you want it right away. There is a fax post at the top of the page that is pinned up there that Gail put together. It's great. It's got information in there that I know several people ask about. We oftentimes get asked how to export images. What is the information that you need in order to export an image from Lightroom? So that is in that fax post. So check there if you're looking for that information. Another option that you have is to go straight to the blog. I know that that is something that I've done before, even when I'm looking for answers to answer some of the questions on the group. I've actually gone to the blog to find the answers that I'm looking for. So that's definitely an option for, anybody. There are tons and tons of blog posts that I've written. There's tutorials, there's webinars. There is so much information there that you should be able to find a lot of information there that could easily help you with what you're learning right now. So be sure to use that as a resource for you. So I'm going to go ahead and answer these questions, and hopefully we will make sure that you are on your road to becoming a better photographer. Okay, so this first question, how can you adjust a preset? Adjusting a preset is, it's not too difficult, but what you need to know is what you want to adjust to get the look that you want. When you choose a preset on a photo, when you go over to the right, and you're looking at all of the different sliders, you will notice that they don't move when you adjust a preset. They stay in the middle. So you don't exactly know where everything is at. So what I always suggest is learning what does what. What does the contrast slider do? What does the clarity slider do? You need to become familiar with those. This is called hand editing. Anytime you go over and say you're doing this without a preset applied first. Say you are going and you are working on a photo and you are going to do an edit to it and you haven't used a preset. You're just going to use the sliders. That's called hand editing. And in order to do that, you have to know what those sliders are going to do for you. I think every photographer that edits in Lightroom needs to know this information because you're going to need to know how to adjust the sliders so that you can achieve the look that you want. Each photographer is known for, whether you're known for your look or whatever it is that draws people to you, you need to understand how that photo is created. If you are going to choose a preset and you want to adjust it, make sure that you go over and there's several presets that are kind of like my go-to presets. I love using in the, I've got my Lightroom screen opened up underneath this here so that I can see it. In the Pretty Preset workflow, I love a quick, clean, center light, contrast, and exposure really brighten. Those are my like go-to workflow sets that I do. So I click on those a lot of times for images. And if I'm not using those, I love to use some of the presets in clean edit workflow, and a couple of my favorites are the color cast fix reds a little and the color cast fix yellows, because a lot of times we will see those reds or those yellows that need to be fixed just a little bit. Those two help a lot. Now when you're using the presets that just do everything, like say you're in the color Lux and you choose a preset and it just does everything, and you want it to have more clarity and more oomph, but you don't know how to give it some oomph, you got to learn how to use those sliders. So that's how you change the presets. I can't tell you, well, you change a preset by changing the exposure, the contrast, and the clarity. It's a combination of what you want. It's a combination of the look you're trying to achieve for your photos. I know the look that I have from my photos. I tend to like my photos to be a little bit more on the brighter side. I like my photos to have the subject sharp, and I like my background to have lots of bokeh, lots of light, lots of yummy, creamy, golden light. I know that that's just my editing style. So I know that when I choose a preset, if it doesn't do that for me, I know how to create that on the sliders or in the brushes to go in and get that. So that's how you do that. You play. You get to learn how to do that depending on what you choose to do. How do you turn a photo black and white that you've used a preset on? For this, this is going to be really easy. I'm going to make this answer short to make up for the long answer that I just gave. You click on a preset, and then you go over on your right hand side, and right underneath where it says basic, it will say treatment, and next to treatment it says color or black and white. And if your edit is not already black and white, you've chosen, say, a color preset and you want it to be black and white, you just click on black and white. That's all you do. It's going to need some adjustment. I kind of played around with this earlier today to look at it. It will need some adjustment because that preset, that color preset, was designed to be done in color. And if you're going to change it to black and white, it's going to need some oomph. It's going to need something to make it look like a great black and white. So again, that's where knowing how to do those hand edits comes in handy. Gotta get some water. Okay. This is a simple one only because I only know like one short little answer for it. So, and the question didn't ask me to really like go into detail on it, so I'm just going to give the short little answer that I know. This one's about color space. All I know about color space is that to print color space, you want to be an sRGB. I can't tell you anything else other than that. I know that when you are exporting photos from Lightroom, you want your color space to be sRGB. The Adobe color space, I honestly don't really know anything about it. I know that when I am in Photoshop, I will see that in there, but we're not talking about Photoshop, so I'm not going to worry about that. I'm only worrying about Lightroom and pretty presets tonight. So all you need to worry about is that in Lightroom, when you export, sRGB. And when you print photos, sRGB. And you want to make sure that that color space is checked, because if you don't, your photos are not going to look good. There was a post about this recently, and the photos looked very different when they were exported from Lightroom and they were posted onto Facebook. Had nothing to do with Facebook making photos look goofy. It had everything to do with the color space not being set correctly. So make sure that when you export images from Lightroom, you have your color space set to what? sRGB. Very good. Okay, next question. Editing when you have a backlit image, and you know how sometimes the ears, you know, they will kind of like stick out a little bit, or you've got too much light coming in from the back, and those poor little ears are just, you know, so transparent, especially on children. And how can you do that with brushes? This is how I've done it with brushes. I have taken the brushes and I have used an exposure brush, and I have gone over, and you know, you can zoom in that image. That right there is part of it to making this work, because when you've got an ear, you know, you want to make sure that you're not, well, you guys know my ears right there, okay? So you want to make sure that you're going over the ear, that you're not going over the hair that's next to the ear, or the furniture that's next to the hair. You want to make sure that you're going over the ear only, okay? So when you are going to edit the ears, you want to make sure that you have zoomed in that image so that you've got like a giant ear in front of you on your screen, okay? So you've got a giant ear. You take your brush and you go into exposure. So you're going to choose an exposure brush. And you are going to very carefully go around that ear, okay? And you're going to then take the exposure slider and you're going to go, I feel like I'm whispering now, you're going to go down very, very slowly. I did this for an edit recently, and it's tedious. And you just have to do it very slowly. You can't just go this way and then go back this way. You have to do it like very slowly, because you can't do it and you can make it look really great. So you just have to make sure that you're doing it slowly. I personally, I did the exposure brush, worked great for me. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking if you were to choose the darken brush, I don't know that it would work as well, but I could totally be wrong on that. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I could totally be wrong, but my suggestion would be to use the exposure brush based off of how I've edited it and knowing that that does work. So you can see my dog back there. I think that works great. If it's still too bright, not on the ear, but then around the ear, you know, you've got that that box that has the triangle up the top, and it shows you where your highlights are and if your highlights are blown. If that's still showing you that your highlights are too bright and it's too dark on the outside of the ear, then just do the same thing. Just go over that area there and you'll be able to get rid of it. And every now and then, you know, there are times where, you know, I may keep the highlights or I may keep the darks because they're not in a place or in a way that's really going to be that bad. So that's just a little side note. You know, if the darks on a fence are really dark and I can't seem to get rid of them or worry about it too much, I'm not going to spend an hour editing one picture. That is just not something that I do. So, it would have to be some like crazy huge reason why I would spend that much time editing one picture. So another drink of water. Okay, so that's that. Okay, send photos from Lightroom to Dropbox. How do you do that? Okay, I'm thinking this one is an easy answer because I've done this recently. So when you are exporting your images from Lightroom, you would just export them. I would save them with, you know, the name of whoever it is you're going to send the Dropbox folder to. So you would export them. I'm not going to tell you how to export right now, though, because you can look that up on our facts page, pinned at the top of the group page. You can save the export under the name of the person you're going to send the Dropbox folder to. Then when you go online to Dropbox, then just go on there and you will create an account if you don't already have one. And then you pull up those files and you create a folder, and then you will email that folder to the person that you're sending it to. It's a little bit different than sending like just a regular email. You've got to make sure that folder is attached, and there's a link that they give you, and you have to make sure that that link is attached to your email. And what's nice about Dropbox is you can share with those folders. So other people can come into the folders and they can see what else is in there. Gail, Laura, and I will do that sometimes with things. We will, you know, put images into a folder, and then we can all three have access to those images when needed. So, so that's how to do that. If that doesn't make sense, or if that seems like it was just a really simple answer, if you go online to Dropbox, I'm sure that they have a help section on their site, and you could always Google, you know, how to send images in Dropbox. But as far as like getting them, you know, from Lightroom to Dropbox, you can just save them like you would save anything else. Okay. Common reasons for Lightroom to slow down and how to fix it. Okay, for me, I know that when my hard drive is like crazy full, Lightroom slows down big time. You know, I would think, I don't know why the space on my hard drive has anything to do with Lightroom running, but it does. You're doing a lot of work in Lightroom and you're making a lot of changes to photos in there. And when my hard drive is really full, like I said, I know that when my hard drive, I want to say when it only has about 50 gigabytes left on it, Lightroom starts to kind of slow down a bit. So you want to make sure that you keep enough memory open and available on your hard drive. If you have a hard time with this, then look into getting an external hard drive or storing your images in the cloud somewhere. Personally, I like to do all of the above. I keep my current sessions stored on my hard drive, and I keep my RAWs and I keep my backup files all stored up on my external hard drive, and then everything is backed up on a cloud site. So if you find that you don't have enough memory to run things on your hard drive, go in and check, because chances are you've got a lot of sessions, a lot of stuff in there that doesn't need to be on there. You know, I just had a conversation today in another group I'm in about saving raw files. None of us save raw files after the client has been delivered their order. So, and that's how I work, is once a client has been delivered their order, then I delete all of the raw files from their session. Please don't send me hate mail telling me that this is totally wrong and telling me your reasons to do it differently. I'm just letting you know what I do, and what several photographers that I'm in a group do, just because we were talking about it today. I'm not saying that it's the right way. I'm not saying that if you don't do it this way, you're doing it wrong. This is just the way that I do it, okay? I do it this way because I have no need for somebody's raw images. They're huge files. I have just no need for them. Once I have edited the photos and they have seen the edits, they have made their order, then I have no need for all those raw files. I do keep them until I am done editing, obviously. I keep the raw files and until the client has made the order, because we may have to do a head swap, we may be looking for something different in another picture, you know, something like that. Usually it's because of a head swap or something like that. But once I hand the client their order, I get rid of raw files. I no longer keep them. The only exception to that is a wedding. A wedding, I keep the raw files for 3 years, but I only do a handful of weddings a year. I digress. Anyways, check to make sure that your hard drive isn't crazy full. That, for me, has always been the biggest reason why Lightroom takes up or gets really slow. So check that. Also, hold on a second, I'm going to try to move something. Also, another thing that I have heard, well, in the group, I don't really know much about it. It's not something that I've done before, but I've seen other people comment on it, and that's to check your cache. I'm not exactly sure what that is and what that does, to be honest with you. I know that Gail does because I've seen her tell other people about that. So I know that you can empty it, and that like scares me to death because like anytime I empty something really bad ends up happening. So I'm always scared to like empty stuff. So maybe when I finish all my senior sessions I'm doing right now and I'm in between stuff, I will go in and empty things. So I know that cache has something to do with slowing Lightroom down. Those are the two main reasons that I know of for slowing Lightroom down. So like I said, to fix it, clean out your hard drive, make sure you've got some space in there, and check that cache thing that I don't really know much about. Okay, this one is more of an editing question. How do you remove unwanted reflections on objects? They've used the clone tool, the heal tool, and brush, and nothing really worked. Okay, my suggestion would be, which brush did you use? Because a lot of times when you say I've used the brush, there's so many brushes that you can use, and if you have the portrait brushes, a lot of times those brushes can be used for a lot of other things, not just making a face pretty. They can be used for other things, like the skin smoothing brush. I use that for all kinds of things. So when it comes to removing an object, I would first go in and I would play with the shadows, and I would play with your darks and your lights. And again, this goes back to what we talked about earlier about knowing how to hand edit and about how to adjust your darks and lights and your highlights and your shadows and those sliders in there. Not everything can be fixed with a brush or a preset. Sometimes you need to be able to know how to use those sliders. There's a reason that those are there. You know, all the brushes, all the presets were created using those. So you need to know how to utilize them sometimes in order to get, you know, things like, you know, unwanted reflections out. I would go in and I would work on the shadows, because really that reflection is going to be a shadow of somebody. So try to work with your shadows. If you can decrease the shadows, you're going to have a little bit of help there. And then if you can work with your highlights and your whites around the shadow, then you might be able to get the two to merge together a little bit more. Then go in and work with your brushes, work with your lighten and your darken and your exposure brushes. Those are the brushes that I would work with. I don't know which ones you worked with, but those are the ones that I would suggest working with. So that's what I would suggest for that. I hope that helps. Of course, I have to say this because, you know, my first thought is just always check that kind of stuff when you're taking pictures. Always look to make sure that you don't have, you know, something in the way, because that sometimes can make or break a photo. Sometimes you won't be able to fix it. And then you're like, darn it, you know, if I had seen that shadow beforehand, I could have just like had her move a different way, or, you know, do something different so that it wouldn't have caused that problem. So always check things like that first when you're doing photos. And then, like I said, play with your shadows and your whites and highlight sliders and see if those will work, and then go into your brushes again and see if those will help. So good luck. Okay, this is one of my favorite questions because a lot of people don't realize this. How to get rid of green cast. Now, this generally tends to happen with the grass, and of course with it being springtime, we're doing a lot of pictures now, children on the grass, laying down, sitting in the grass, a lot of those kinds of images right now. And you see all this green, and then you've got children sitting in it, and then before you know it, you go home and you edit, and you're like, oh my gosh, there's all this green skin now, what am I going to do? Okay, here's what you're going to do. Super easy fix. Like I said, a lot of people don't realize it. What you're going to do is you're going to work on your yellows, not necessarily the greens. You're going to work on the yellows. You're going to go down to your, and I always do this after I've applied presets, by the way. I'll apply my preset and the overall look that I want for the picture. And if the green is still like, whoa, then I go over to my yellow slider and I take the saturation and I move it down just a little bit or over to the left a little bit. And then I guess I should wait. Anyways, my hands are backwards on this. So I take my saturation for yellow and move it to the left a little bit. And then I take my yellow luminance and I move that to the right a little bit. And then you will have perfect looking grass. Took me a while to figure that out, that it's not actually green that you deal with, it's yellow. Grass has a lot of yellow in it. And, you know, it's just like a baby. A baby has all these different undertones in it, and you don't realize it until you see the baby on your screen. And then you have to figure out which color you're actually going to have to edit. You know, is it going to be purple? Is it going to be blue? Is it going to be yellow or red? Grass is the same way. You don't realize that it's actually not a lot of green that you're going to deal with. It's yellow. So that, I promise you, you do that with the yellows and you're going to be great. And if you have the Clean and Creative workflow, use that Fix Yellow Cast and see if that helps. I haven't used that one yet on grass because I don't do a whole lot with sitting on the grass, but I just had a thought that maybe that that preset may actually work pretty well for helping you with your green cast. So so that's what you got to do for your green cast. Okay. Okay. I'm going to save that one for last, actually. Okay. Okay. This one has to do with adjusting brushes that you've worked on. Why does it say custom? Okay, so you know how when you've used your brushes and you want to go back and you want to change a brush. And now, instead of telling you that that was the exposure brush and this was the darken brush, and then you've got this one pin that says custom. Why does it say custom? I'm going to tell you why. It's because you made a change to it. It is no longer the brush that you intended for it to be. It's a brush that you changed. So that now makes it a custom brush. So that's a super easy answer. So you just have to be aware of that. Maybe that can make it hard sometimes, and like depending on how many brushes you have. Hold on. So that's why it does that. It's just simply because you've made changes to it. And so I don't do a whole lot of brushes except for the face, and I love the brushes for skies and when I'm out somewhere and I've got a lot of a gorgeous background behind me, but I've been leaning more towards the filters for those. But anyways, so it's because you've made changes to those brushes. That's why it says custom. Oh, there's the sun over there. Okay, let's do this one. Oh, we already did that one. Okay, so this is the last one that I have, and it's actually about luminous, and I'm going to answer it just because it says, is there any anything to look forward to with fog or mist luminous presets? I have not heard of anything. I promise that Laura has not said a word to me about it. I know that last time I did know about the Luminous collection that was coming out, and I got to play around with it for a little while before it was released. So that was super exciting, but I have not heard of anything for something with fog or mist being released. So this is it. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this. It's been like half an hour, so hopefully I've answered some questions for you and didn't go too off of subject for you. So anyways, so we shall see you again next Monday. Thanks everyone.